Joe Biden giving his speech on Thursday outside Independence Hall with a red backdrop saying, well, this I think encapsulates it pretty well.
And now America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path.
He talks about a certain group in American politics embracing anger, yet throughout the speech he sounded pretty darn angry with that blood red backdrop. And I want to pose a question to our next guest, because Alexa texted in a great breakdown here. Did the red represent hell, Russia, or China? Why do designers use red? Red is a color that instantly invokes emotion. Reds are connected to the fire element, which is activating. Symbolism will be part of the Dems' downfall. That symbolism question is the big one that's getting a lot of us to scratch our heads. So who better to talk to about these kinds of things than Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, communications coach, licensed attorney, host of the Crisis Files. Roshini has been on this program now for 8 years as a periodic guest and analyst, one of my favorite guests to bring on the show. For years, she hosted a show on Sundays on WCCO radio in Minneapolis, and in 2006 launched her boutique executive coaching, media consulting, and professional speaking firm, Roshini Multimedia. Her book, Communicate That, is in its third edition. Her website, ownyourwow.com. And again, as we'll talk about in a bit, she's got this podcast called The Crisis Files, which is brand new, and I'm very excited to talk with her about it. Without further ado, Roshini Rajkumar, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. Thanks for the great introduction. And what a great analysis from your listener there about the color red. I mean, it is a power color. Red is a power color. It's a good color to use when you have specific messages to send. So, for example, when my women executives have to get up on a stage and give a keynote, red is a good color if red looks good on them, and if what they're trying to do is really get the message out there that they are a powerful leader. Red can also be anger-bringing. It can also be very fiery, as your listener pointed out. So you have to be intentional with red, and I got to believe that Biden's team was intentional with this color.
Yeah, I mean, a listener texting in now, I see red as an angry color, very fitting for his angry speeches and spewing hate as his opponents. Now, of course, that's a takeaway that I think does describe this speech, but why would that color? Because, yes, it has to be intentional as the backdrop, as you're saying, Roshini. But why would they pick that? Because it was not flattering. And, oh, my gosh, the memes that we have gotten over the past couple of days have been just too much. Do they really want to generate all these memes?
I doubt it, especially the real negative ones. Yeah, I mean, red is part of our flag, red, white, and blue. Why couldn't you have had that kind of flag symbolism waving in the background? And you've got those two Marines flanking him with their glow-in-the-dark gloves. I mean, it was just an awful setting. I mean, an awful backdrop. And then on top of it, you know, Jimmy, I've been on your show, as you said, now 8 years. It's hard to believe.
I know.
We have talked about all these subtextual messages that your body language emits, that your wardrobe choices, and very importantly, your vocal behavior sends. You don't want the subtextual messages to clash with your intended messages. When I listen to him speaking, it's almost annoying to listen to the cadence of his vocal behavior right now. It's very just, you know, kind of almost a staccato, it is not natural, is my point here. And when you are the president of the United States, someone who's been a senator for decades. He is not a newbie to politics. You want your speech, your not like a speech, but your actual day-to-day speech. And when you get up on stages, you want it to be eloquent. You want it to be natural. You want it to match the experience level you have as, in his case, a politician, in your case, a radio host, in my case, a professional speaker and talk show host. If I got up on a stage and my vocal behavior was choppy or nasally or any of a number of negative things, that would not match who I claim to be as a crisis strategist and professional broadcaster. So that's my point. His vocal behavior does not match. In fact, it doesn't even, this call to action he's trying to do by calling out the MAGA Republicans, first of all, that's very divisive to even say that. You should be the president, call on all Republicans and Democrats to come together at this time, not very long before the midterm elections. This was a very dangerous game plan or a dangerous move by the Democrats to put their president, our president of the United States, in this position at this time.
Well, and this wasn't just, you talk about cadence. He didn't even have variety. It was all just one high-level, angry-sounding speech tone.
Monotone. Yeah.
But the thing is that this was a primetime address by the President of the United States. It wasn't, say, at 12 noon or at a rally for Democrat candidates or something. It was a prime time address by the President of the United States. And I want to play a clip here because one of the things I really want to get your thoughts on, Roshini Rajkumar, again, as a crisis strategist and host of the tremendous new podcast, The Crisis Files, is this idea that I took away from the speech that Biden is really trying to generate, to fabricate a crisis for democracy, and that he really is setting up this idea that it is about to be left asunder. A little bit of a taste for that.
And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. They promote authoritarian leaders and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country.
What did you make of that, and how about this sense, Roshini Rajkumar, that he's trying to create and present, that this group that he even describes as like very small, he says this, whatever he's claiming to be MAGA Republicans, are a small group of Republicans, and yet they're somehow capable of tearing down the country or posing the greatest threat, which, by the way, can only be solved by vote, vote, vote. It's not existential enough at the same time for him to, promote some sort of extreme solution. I don't know. There's a lot of contradictions and conflations there, in my view.
Yeah, a lot of conflations and a lot of erroneous messaging in that clip you just played, meaning really off to have him say these kinds of things. So every time you reference MAGA Republicans, you are conjuring up Donald Trump. Any time you conjure up Donald Trump, you are giving Donald Trump power. And you are saying subtextually, this guy bothers me. He's under my skin. I'm not in control. You know what I'm saying? So every time the media of any kind covers Donald Trump, they're giving Donald Trump more power. And you know from the beginning, even before Trump was elected, I'm not a big fan of his style. So I am very nonpartisan, but the Democrats and the Republicans are bungling our country. It's not the MAGA Republicans. When Joe Biden, our president, says these kinds of things, he's attacking. He's in attack mode. That is not a powerful stance for a leader. You don't want to be on the offensive/defensive in his case. You need to have some sort of position of power that's inclusive, that says this country is here for all of us, regardless of color, creed, party, sex, gender, whatever. And that is not what he has been delivering to us month after month. So just as someone who analyzes this stuff, he should be very worried about the midterm elections.
Absolutely. Without question. And as I listen to you describe what a president should do, I think about the fact that right now, the former president, Donald Trump, is under FBI investigation, had a subpoena executed or rather a warrant executed at his home for thousands and thousands of documents, including a ton of non-classified stuff. And there is a sense among many Americans, and they're not just some narrow band of MAGA Republicans, it is Republicans at large, that the FBI, and maybe it's an accurate sense, maybe it's not, but that the FBI has become very political and politicized. And at a moment when the former president, who's the leader that so many people do look to in our country still at this point, when he is being targeted by the FBI, rightly or wrongly, we don't know yet. Then you have the president of the United States 2 weeks into that give a primetime address in which he blasts Donald Trump and his followers in this vigorous, full-throated way with the red blood backdrop. What is that supposed to send as far as a message, not just to his narrow band of MAGA Republicans, not just to Republicans, but to the country at large about what is happening right at this tenuous moment?
One word for you, Jimmy: desperation. I mean, if you were in a power position and felt confident about both yourself, your party, and the future of our country, you would not be giving a speech like that. You would not have the images that he had out there. Frankly, this whole primetime show that we've been seeing with the January 6th hearings, now this, it's like, television is a powerful force, and I'm getting kind of disgusted with politicians using it for propaganda. I really am. I'm saying that as an American, not just as an analyst. So it would be much stronger if the messaging were short and sweet and came from a position of unity and credibility. So he needs someone, it might not be me. I mean, I'm happy to go in there and help him with his vocal behavior, but he needs someone to help him on delivery because he's falling short. And it's frankly, for me as an American, as a citizen of our country, I want more from the President of the United States. You're going around the world representing all of us Americans. I don't want the bombast. I don't want the desperation. I want power. I want this sense of we are a kick-ass country, and I'm the president of a nation that, right now we're doing, we've got some fractures, but I'm working on it. I'm going to work on it. I need all the American people to help me. I mean, we need some conciliation. We need collaboration. Those are the kinds of things that whomever is advising President Biden needs to be bringing up and putting in his ear and then helping him deliver content accordingly.
And just a final point as we lead into your podcast, The Crisis Files. If there is a genuine crisis for democracy, he did not present that kind of case. And I'm not saying that there is. I'm not saying there isn't. I mean, just from an analytical standpoint, if you are trying to get the American people to come alongside you when it comes to addressing a genuine crisis, that is not how you present the crisis and how you present your solutions to that crisis.
Totally agree with you there. We may have a crisis in democracy here in our country. And I would say we all are to blame, regardless of party. We all as citizens have to be more discerning. We have to not believe everything we see or read. We have to not only go to whatever media outlet we believe aligns with our beliefs and our political party. We have to really be discerning. And when we have questions, we need to take that to the media. We need to take those questions to our politicians and demand answers that are fair and transparent. I mean, there's such a cesspool of fractured ethics in our Congress right now and in many of our state legislatures. That's what I'm concerned about, because those are the governing bodies that create the laws. So long before it gets to the courts, we need laws that are fair for everyone and that are created with transparency. So those are the kinds of things that the president should be working for, and those are the kinds of things that we as citizens should demand and also be part of the solution.
Roshini Rajkumar, our guest, host of the brand new podcast, The Crisis Files, which is very unique. And I want to play what is basically the first 20-something seconds of the show.
It's not a matter of if, but when a crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. My crisis squad and I are here to find solutions. Our suggestions are meant to empower you to handle your own crisis or prevent crises from happening.
I have to tell you, this is so fascinating because you have a team that you assemble, and sometimes they're grouped together. Sometimes it's one-on-one where you're interviewing one of these experts that cover a variety of different backgrounds and areas of expertise in crisis communication and more. And how you present it's interesting because you take a specific topic and really examine it in depth. Tell us about this new show.
Well, I'm so excited about it, Jimmy. As you know, because you had me on in the past, I had my radio show, Real Talk with Roshini, for 9 years. I sunset that show a year ago, September, and had been starting to work on this prior to sunsetting that show, and originally planned for only a TV version or streaming version. So we got to work in getting our pilot shoot together. We shot the pilot sizzle reel in April of this year and started on our plan to pitch it to television and streaming executives, which very early stages of that pitching. But while the pilot was being edited, I said to my team, this content is so vital, and it's almost like we're living in daily crisis anyway. I want to get the word out that I'm the host of this new show, The Crisis Files. So I decided let's do version 1. We're going to launch as a podcast while we start working on pitching the television version. So just a few weeks ago, I mean, less than a month ago, in the month of August, episode or case file, as I call it, case file 1 dropped, and case file number 7 drops right after Labor Day. And it actually features one of my squad members who is from Denver, the only squad member from Denver, Dr. Cheryl Ziegler. She's a clinical psychologist. We're going to get into the topic of mass shootings, and she has some great advice for parents and educators and young people. So definitely go on thecrisisfiles.com. It's also on every podcast platform. We hope you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Crisis Files. But we have my squad. So it's 4 members. Dr. Ziegler, Dr. Abdul Amari is my DEI guy, my inclusion guy. Steve Silton is our business and entertainment attorney. And Jennifer Hellman is our PR guru. These are my 4 squad members. But we may absolutely, time to time, and I'm already starting to plan for this, tap into other experts, subject matter experts, thought leaders. I may be hitting you up, Jimmy, for a future episode to handle topics of crisis. So something that's coming up later in September is this whole topic of big city safety. And, you know, I'm based in Minneapolis. Minneapolis, unfortunately, was the birthplace of some things that are now really among us as a narrative when it comes to safety and questions of safety. So we're going to get into that on the Crisis Files. We hope that people send us their issues, their crises, and myself and the Crisis Squad can go at it and try to find some solutions. Of course, you know, just for disclaimer, we always say, you know, you need to find your own doctor if it's a medical thing or a lawyer if it's a legal thing, but we can at least put some best practices out there, try to help guide you down the right path. And I'm really excited about it. And the initial reaction to the Crisis Files has been terrific. And you know how you really are hoping for all generations to be into it. I've got 20-year-olds telling me that, and every decade is telling me after they've listened to this is so needed right now. So I'm really excited, and then I'm excited, hopefully in the near future, to bring to the little or big screen the Crisis Files TV show.
Well, I think it's excellent. And yeah, I mean, if I can be of help to the Crisis Squad, let me know. I would be delighted to. I will also say I just put out a tweet that includes both the teaser video and a link to the podcast. I'm at Sang Center, Sang with an E, not an A, Center on Twitter. Of course, you can follow at The Crisis Files on Twitter and log on to thecrisisfiles.com. Roshini Rajkumar, out of time here, but thank you so much for joining us as always. And good luck with the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jimmy.